Happy Monday and welcome to Lunchtime Live, everybody. We missed you last week.
We sure did.
I mean, we also enjoyed a morning off, but we also missed you guys last week. Happy Monday. I need to find the chat window here, so give me a second. No, doesn't want to be found.
We're adjusting.
Where is it? That's a good question. It disappeared, so I wonder if I put something over it. We're learning everything. So diving right in, we had a fantastic podcast recording session just an hour ago. First of all, Ed, will you tell us a little bit about it, and then I can go in with my question.
Yeah, remarkable person. Rachel Kornfeld is the Chief Executive Officer of Jewish Family Services in Greenwich. And she's a fantastic leader. She's been in our community just going on 3 years. So, of course, she's been here throughout the entire global pandemic thus far. And for even more immediate purposes, she has been the I would say, heart and soul behind the resettlement of Afghani evacuees in our area in particular. Connecticut has been remarkable. The state of Connecticut is stepping up to receive 600 Afghani evacuee families, 600 individuals in the next probably 2 to 3 months. So it's all happening very quickly. And with Rachel's help and the help of some other organizations, we're hoping to resettle 21 Afghani evacuees here in our community in the next couple of months. And it could be starting as soon as next week.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like it went from nothing to kind of everything, seemingly as a sort of outsider of this process, so overnight. And so all I can imagine is how many human hours, how much human effort and attention and love, really passion went into this so far.
And it's really interesting because 2 women in our congregation had reached out to me to say, we're aware of, obviously, of this extraordinary humanitarian crisis. Is there anything that we can do here? And because we have a cottage on our campus, one of the questions was, could we provide some kind of emergency transitional housing as some of these people are coming in? So the answer to that is yes. And we've had so many people step up to offer all kinds of donations, and it's been a remarkable experience.
It's so exciting. And so I want to sort of zoom in on this idea that our involvement was really motivated by our members' interest and passion and seeing a need and wanting to fill it. That to me is really exciting. Yeah,
absolutely. And since that time, we've had members come forward who themselves were at, either they or their families have experience of being refugees or immigrants. So they become very passionate about this as well. And they're stepping up to support this effort. So that's really, really positive.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. We have some wonderful leadership, and we're also collaborating with some other congregations, right?
Yeah. And I think that's a tremendous plus. So because this is such a huge endeavor, don't go there alone would be the guiding, I think, mantra here. So the First Presbyterian Church in Greenwich had actually been mobilizing for a while in anticipation of something like this happening.
Really?
Interestingly enough, which I thought was remarkable for them. And then we joined together with the Greenwich International Ladies Group. So those are women from all across the world who, about 200 of them, who have formed this international ladies group. And so they, of course, have a particular sensitivity for what it means to be living as a foreign person, right, in a new country. And since that time, we've now been joined by the North Greenwich Congregational Church, United Church of Christ. So they've added leadership and volunteers. So we have 4 organizations, and we are now called Rising Hope Resettlement Group. So it's been really great, gratifying to see all that coming together.
That's so exciting. So what sort of, as we're looking forward, what are the next steps? If we have friends, listeners who want to get involved, that's kind of 2 questions, but
it's all good.
Answer them in order if you're choosing.
So the good thing is we have great support. So if anybody is thinking, I'd love to be involved in this, but it sounds huge. It's good to be respectful of the nature of the project.
Sure.
But on the other hand, we have tremendous resources, namely in Jewish Family Services. And they've actually hired a full-time case management worker as part of this process. So that's great. And if anybody wants to be directly involved, you can simply reach out to me, call me, or email me. And egh@roundhillcommunitychurch.org. And we have upwards of 60 volunteers right now, which is tremendous. However, there are 21 people who are coming into our community. So we need a lot of volunteers, and there's space for everybody. And, some people may not feel comfortable having direct internet interaction with those who are coming to the community. That's fine. There's plenty of behind the scenes work that can be done. Some things can be done from people's homes. Other people will want to be more directly involved and give rides and offer tutoring and all those things. So there's something for everyone. And the timing it's moving right along. We think that the first members of this 21 person group will be arriving December the 6th. So that's about a week away. Wow. So it's happening fast. So if you would like to be involved, please let us know right away, and we can put everybody to really good use.
Yeah. And many hands light work.
Absolutely. Especially in this case. Yeah.
Yeah. It puts me in mind of, when we've had conversations about tackling big issues, namely when we talked about tackling climate change, and people say, well, how do I do something? I'm just one person. The answer is stop being one person. I feel like this is such a beautiful example of that.
Yeah. Great connection.
The call went out, and that so many people have stepped up and, are able to do small impactful things. And when enough people get together and do small impactful things, they become really big impactful things.
Yeah. It's amazing how that theme has come up, hasn't it? I mean, I think it's true to the wisdom traditions of the great religions, right? That you trust the small, meaningful, intentional action and then let it grow from there and see where it leads.
Well, and it's interesting too, because I feel like this idea of congregational collaboration, parish collaboration, church to church, or, congregation to congregation, it's not something that happens very often.
Right.
And I'm just thinking of the power of like this happening now with such a big project, and it seems like something sort of magical is happening. There's a spark there, it sounds like.
And I think it's taking your comment, if you feel like you're just one person, stop being one person. If you're like, well, we're just one congregation, we'll stop being one congregation, right?
Yeah.
Start to bond together. And I'd like to think that, in this period where we've seen this massive church decline in membership, right, over the last 70 years it's been in place.
Sure.
Nobody really wants to think about that because it's a little depressing. I had a friend of mine who said these were brothers, and one is an ordained minister in the Presbyterian Church and one in the United Methodist Church. And I think one of them said to the other, so what's it like being a pastor in the fastest declining denomination in the country? He said, I don't know, what's it like being a pastor in the second fastest declining denomination in the country.
Ouch.
So out of all of that, I like to believe that something new and exciting is going to happen. And I love all of these groups of which we've been a part, they're more excited to be part of this because of the collaboration. They really love that idea of people working together. So that's more natural to us. And let's hope. I keep thinking in the back of my mind, and I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but this is going to take a lot of effort in the next weeks and months. Yeah. But I'd like to think that we are building leadership skills for the future.
Yeah.
Right. So we don't want to put and invest all this time and energy into this very worthwhile endeavor without thinking, so what's the next worthwhile endeavor beyond that?
Yeah.
Right. We're developing some skills that we can put to good use in the future. So
and developing trusting relationships.
Exactly.
And I have a feeling that there's also going to be some fun that's going to be had through this process.
Yeah. I think that's absolutely the
really
case.
Rewarding for those who are taking part. It also makes me think about, so in the American Guild of Organists, we talk about this power of collaboration, and that it's so important. And in such a world where it feels like we're so disconnected, that really this is a beautiful example of community and like really, um, forging relationships and connection, especially over the past year and whatever that we've had now, that this probably, I bet, just feels so good to everybody involved, to be doing good in our community for, and welcoming new friends.
Yeah. Some people have asked the question, so, how is it possible to settle a family in the Greenwich, Stamford, Norwalk area because of the housing prices here?
Right.
And part of our answer to that question along the lines of what you're saying is there are just tremendous resources here. Wouldn't we want these families to be positioned so that they can take advantage of those resources too?
Absolutely.
So the housing challenge is probably the most significant challenges that are faced by resettlement groups, but let's embrace that, and let's share the richness of our community with people who are coming here from another part of the world.
Well, I think that's so, I mean, I will admit, when you were first telling me about this, my initial thought was like, how are they going to find somewhere to live here?
Oh.
But and it's easy to get bogged down in that.
Yes, exactly.
And then I think by opening that conversation up, I mean, we have the cottage that we're using as transitional housing.
There it is.
It's like this beautiful, currently empty home, and it's going to be so warm and cozy.
Yeah. At night, Leslie, I walk one or both of our dogs around the campus at night, and I look over at that cottage and I ask myself, who's going to be living in that cottage, maybe in a couple of weeks or a week. And the idea is that we want to be able to help an initial group settle there for a few days or maybe 2 weeks. They move out. Another group comes in for 2 weeks, and another, and it goes through that process. I'm just thinking about what are the stories of the people coming here, and how does that becomes maybe their first home in the United States of America, and then they move into something hopefully that will be more permanent. But these groups that are forming to help resettle evacuees are really going to be there for the long haul, because when certain things end, there will come a time when all of these people are expected to earn their own way.
Sure.
There can still be the ongoing supportive relationship and friendships. I love the fact that Rachel Kornfeld, almost consistently said that these are our newest neighbors. And I love that idea.
Yeah.
These are going to be our neighbors and potentially our friends, and we want them to feel as welcome here as possible.
Well, and it goes with, I mean, the thing that struck me before you said that was these are literally going to be your next door neighbors.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is pretty cool.
It's quite amazing.
I had an idea, and maybe somebody already thought of this, but wouldn't it be cool to have like a guest book? Or like a home book where people could maybe share a story.
That's a lovely idea.
And then they could see the people who've come before them.
Yes, that's a wonderful idea. I'm so glad you mentioned that.
I'm a sucker for a guest book. I gotta say.
Well, we're going to put that into use. That's a wonderful idea.
I think it could be fun, and so they can see the people who've come before them and feel in community with them. Because I imagine there's maybe potential for feeling a little isolated through this process.
Yes. I was talking with Susan yesterday about this, and I said, just imagine if for some reason we were forced into evacuee status, and then we heard from some international resettlement agency, we've got good news for you. We're going to resettle you, and it's going to be in Russia.
Yeah.
And so now we don't know any Russian.
Right.
We've never been there, and now we're going to be moved there. So the good news is they have decided, some resettlement group there has decided they're going to take us in.
Right.
But on our part, we've got to start learning Russian. We've got to start, totally changing our attitudes, our ways of being in the world, learning new linguistic skills and a new culture. How daunting is that?
Oh my goodness.
And yet this is in some ways the most noble tradition of American culture, which is to welcome someone from another country. So, but you're right. It is going to be interesting to walk outside and suddenly see the lights on, right?
Yeah.
And say, there are new neighbors there.
New neighbors here today. Well, and, I can't imagine that our our new neighbors will have heard of Connecticut necessarily.
The little nutmeg state.
Yeah, or Greenwich for that.
Probably hasn't registered.
No, I mean, you think of New York City,
right?
which is sleeper town. It's just,
Yeah.
it's a metropolitan area. It's such a courageous act to just pick up everything and move. Like, I can't. It's a lot to wrap your head around.
And most of these people had no time to make the transition. They got to the airport as quickly as they could, and then out they went to the United States military bases where they've been. All of the 600 Afghani evacuees who will be settling in Connecticut are currently being housed on a military base somewhere in the United States. So they're at least in the United States.
Okay.
But in some cases, they get a call or someone comes to their door and says, you need to get ready to move because you're going to your new home and it's in Connecticut and you're leaving in 6 hours.
Right.
And off they go. And they might arrive here at 1 o'clock in the morning. And here they come to the next strange place in their lives. It really does challenge us, I think, to become so much more appreciative of the refugee, the person who's exiled, the asylum seeker, someone who's a really kind of looking at life from the outside in and wanting to find a new sense of place in the world. I think it's going to make us who are involved in this process, our congregations and groups involved in this, much more sensitive to their plight.
For sure.
So
there's a line from a musical called "A Soft Place to Land."
Oh,
and that makes me think of what our community is trying to do, trying to create a soft place, a welcoming, warm, cozy place for these people who have been through so much.
Right.
And I have so much respect for those who are taking this project on. I'm involved in like a tiny little sideway, but doing the heavy lifting, and it's incredible. And I'm just, I know our community and how fiercely they love, and I think this is going to be such a wonderful outgiving, outpouring opportunity for them to really create a soft place.
Yes.
For this family.
Yeah. Well said. Yeah, I think that it's going to awaken something in us that we may not know what that is yet. But I think that anytime we reach out to the world in love, this is a pretty dramatic way of doing it. But anytime we do that, we open ourselves in a way to be touched and to have our lives become enlarged. And we don't know what that's going to feel like or how that's going to change our way of looking at the world until it happens.
Yeah.
So that's what we make ourselves available to when we become part of this process.
And it really feels like the best of what being a person of faith is.
Oh, it does. It brings into clarity some things also that may not be quite as important. I won't get into specifics right now.
It's fine. It's fine. Keep focused on the important things.
Exactly.
Do you know, I saw on social media this morning a posting that a Christian community, I read it quickly and I had to move on, unfortunately, but it was a Christian community in a European country had held a 90-day worship service to protect an Armenian family of refugees because that country's government did not allow the interruption of worship services. So they had a continuous 90-day worship service to protect this family until a deal was struck.
Wow. Isn't
that incredible? And it just like that is faith in action.
Absolutely.
Like that is loving your neighbor. And that just, to me, it ties into what we're doing here. Like it's that faith in action and love.
Yeah. I think that is so true. And, these are the kinds of expressions of love that have the capacity to reinvigorate a community, so that people are suddenly saying exactly what you've said. This is what a faith community looks like. This is what a person of, this is what faith in action can be at the personal and communal level.
Yeah. Well, and we have a wonderful comment here from our friend. So happy to know that our RHCC cottage will be a welcoming, warm beacon of light and hope.
Nice.
Well said.
Yes, indeed.
I love that. I agree with you. It's exciting, and it's like what normally that cottage is not empty.
Yep, that's right.
And so that kind of that alignment, if you will.
Yeah. It makes me wonder what the spirit is stirring up here, right?
Hey.
Because this has been getting underway, this process of becoming the Rising Hope Resettlement Group. We've just spent a lot of the autumn, going through the process of getting our campus ready to be solarized, right? Adding 200, different kind of neighbor we're adding there, right? 280 solar panels.
Hey.
Right? Welcome, neighbor.
Welcome, neighbor.
And then we also, as the staff members were talking with members of our faith community who are involved in supporting our children, we started to talk about, so what are the things that we could be doing around Christmas to reach out? So we've chosen this challenge of reaching out to Heifer Project International. And that organization's been around since the Second World War. And it's so wonderful because they send livestock to other parts of the country, and the livestock have to live in the community. So they're producing things, right, the community needs, eggs and wool and whatever it happens to be. Bees are being sent. And then the community takes that produce, they sell it, they eat what they can, and that helps to nourish the community in so many different ways. So our challenge is that we want to send a gift ark, an ark of animals. $5,000 is the goal to do that. And it's really a remarkable thing. And I've been part of other faith communities that have done this, and it becomes so special because you actually, if you do this, Heifer Project International sends you the most beautiful plaque.
Nice.
With this announcement that you have sent this gift ark, and they describe the way that these different animals go to all different parts of the world, right? There's a wonderful story about a young girl who was one of the beneficiaries of the work of Heifer, lived in an African country. I'm not remembering all the details, but because her family became a little bit more prosperous, thanks to Heifer, they were able to send her to a good school.
Wow.
And as she continued to, go through the educational process, she wound up becoming a full scholarship student at Connecticut College.
Hey!
In the little nutmeg state, triumphs again. And she got her degree, and she went back to her homeland in order to help other people thrive in that way. Because a few goats or llamas or whatever made their way to her village and helped her family, and in turn helped other families. And I think it's such a great story.
I think it's a wonderful story. Yeah. And for our local friends, normally we've had the tradition of the angel tree in the parlor, which is an opportunity for giving this time of year. And this year we're doing the ark tree. I made I'll make a little topper later. It's gonna have a little arc on it.
Can't wait to see it.
It's really cute.
Yeah.
But I think I love that also, that this is not only, our Christmas Eve giving or whatever. We have we often have multiple giving opportunities during the year, during the Christmas season. And I love that this is our intergenerational whole community giving thing. So in the amazing Advent Family Workshop that Tanya and Lizzie and their team organized, that was part of giving towards the ark.
That's right.
That we're really single-minded focus, and really, when there's so much else going on, we're still giving.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think there's always this question that comes up in communities of faith, like, are we overextending ourselves? What's our capacity?
Sure.
And I discovered that there's actually just been reading this wonderful book called The Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter. And he talks about the way in which moving out of our comfort zone is healthy for us in so many different ways. But there is a physiological response that we have when we feel like we're putting out too much energy that the body makes to kind of, say, be careful here, you're entering into this zone.
Right.
But we can't stop when the body sends that signal. The body's sending a signal just as a kind of heads up.
Yeah.
But actually, it sends that signal when we still have a lot of capacity.
Yeah.
And I think what we're saying as a community, that even though various demands are being made upon us and it's a challenging time, we still can reach out.
I love that.
And that's inspiring for the world, at a time when people have been hunkered down or feeling like they have to maybe, reduce their dreams for the future. Communities of faith can say, well, maybe we have to wait for a different time, but let's not, we can't afford to shrink the spirit, right?
Yeah.
That spirit is dynamic, and let's let it work and see what we can do.
Don't stop dreaming.
Don't stop dreaming.
It puts me in mind of, I know you have done some yoga with Adrienne on YouTube, my personal favorite. Tiny little bit. I did some this morning. It was great. But she talks about, so the idea of prana energy, which is when you're doing something and it is difficult and maybe you start feeling heat in your body, or maybe you get the shakes, right? So you're like trying to hold a pose and you're like, oh, no. But that energy, that challenge, that's when the change happens.
Yep.
That's when transformation happens. And the reframing, I learned to reframe that. So when you're uncomfortable thinking, oh, something's changing.
Yeah,
you
that's
get
lovely.
kind of excited, like, oh, I'm benefiting myself today. I'm going to get that tiny little bit stronger, that tiny little bit more flexible or whatever, But I think that can apply to what you were saying, of that past that line is when change can happen.
Right. When people in congregations that I've been part of over the years have said, I just don't think this is something we can do right now. My first response has always been, well, who else would we need to invite into this process to make the we a bigger force to make this possible?
Me to we.
Right?
Yeah. I love that.
And I think that it's just going back to the collaboration. If we collaborate, we think about ourselves as collaborators, there's so much that might not seem possible that suddenly becomes very possible.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I think that's a good note on where to end. That sentence made no sentence, but I'm getting tired. Oh, thank you. We had our RHCC archery. Oh, thank you so much. I decorated. Okay. So I did decorate a tiny bit for Christmas. I decorated my fiddly fig a little bit. And then Ed has some, what are those called? Bottle brush trees. They're Gus's. I stole them from his box.
It sounds like a great name to me.
I think so. Because they're like the brush, those like made of, I don't know. It will continue to evolve over the weeks. This is what I could grab in 5 minutes as I was leaving the house this morning.
Every day in every way, better and better.
That's right. By the end, we might just be like covered. There's just like, there's stuff behind us everywhere.
Tinsel falling from the
glitter.
Right.
Glitter bomb.
Everywhere.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us for another Lunchtime Live. We'll be back here next week at noon.
Blessings, one and all.